In helping professions, compassion fatigue is an occupational hazard of the job. There's nothing to be ashamed of or feel guilty about when you find yourself worn out and not wanting to hear any more sadness and any more problems. Compassion fatigue is the cost of caring, and you are a deeply caring individual who is devoted to your work and calling. But when you start questioning your skills and consider walking away because you're exhausted, that can be really overwhelming. In this video, I share some of the behavioral signs of compassion fatigue, and you can take a 30-question quiz and assess your levels of compassion fatigue. My name is Laura Howe, founder of Hope Made Strong. We equip you and your ministry team as you support and care for others in your community. Have you ever found yourself in a conversation with someone that seems out of place? Someone is sharing their heart with you in the grocery store, at a social event. You shift your weight back and forth, you turn sideways, you hold up your hands, look away, or maybe you try to change the subject. It's not that you don't care for this person, but what they're sharing is private, and you're standing in the middle of the produce aisle. Essentially, you're trying to silence or avoid the conversation until you can speak in a more appropriate place. And this makes complete sense. But silencing a person or avoiding difficult topics in a counseling session, now that is a sign of compassion fatigue. And I know this firsthand because this is what I experienced when I found myself facing burnout and compassion fatigue. I had worked 13 years in a mental health field, and the client was divulging some very intense trauma. I was exhausted and I couldn't handle any more tragic stories. Rather than listening with empathy and allowing her to find healing, I cut her off. I asked a question that turned the conversation in a different direction. And when she continued her story, I held up my hands in a stop position and tried to divert the session. This was my final cue telling me that something else was going on. Compassion fatigue, or my inability to empathize and see what she was needing in that moment, got in the way of supporting her. Anger is an easy go-to when you're exhausted and depleted, and it can be a symptom of compassion fatigue. I think we're all familiar with the short temper, low tolerance for stress, and rapid mood swings that can happen. These are all things we're vulnerable to when stress levels are high. But what happens when these levels remain high for a long period of time? Oftentimes, that results in the breakdown of relationships. At work, irritability with coworkers and feelings of resentment can be a result of compassion fatigue. Interestingly enough, research shows that individuals in the early stages of compassion fatigue work harder rather than less. People appear to be the most dedicated staff, coming into work early, leaving late, taking on extra responsibility and projects. However, feelings of frustration can grow and overwhelm creeps in as they watch others take lunch breaks, use vacation time, while they are facing back-to-back meetings and continuous project deadlines. Increased use of alcohol and drugs is a very common sign of compassion fatigue. It doesn't matter if it's a cup of coffee or a bowl of ice cream, over-the-counter sleep aid. If a substance is needed to be able to cope with the pressures of life, work, and at home, then you are a substance user. Technology is also a behavioral addiction, and it can be used to escape and distract when you're experiencing stress. The feel-good chemicals that are released in your body when you win a level or get a like or watch a funny video are no different than the chemicals that our brain releases when you use drugs. When your use of substances increase in regularity or volume, just so you can maintain the status quo, that is a sign that you're in the red zone. Most people don't realize that impaired ability to make decisions and forgetfulness is a symptom of compassion fatigue. Have you ever found yourself staring into the fridge at the end of a long day, wondering what you were even looking for? I think we can all say that we've done that, but the inability to make decisions, or another way of saying it is a loss of confidence in your skills, can cause you to feel incompetent. When you doubt your skills and unsure of what course of action to take because of brain fog, you start to question your profession and if you're in the right field or industry. We all lead busy lives. Forgetting to turn the coffee maker off or what we're getting from the fridge is really normal. But forgetting to pick up your child at daycare, which I have done, or regularly forgetting appointments, this can be a sign of overload. And finally, changes in our social activity can also be an indicator of compassion fatigue. I was talking with my coworker about my experience of compassion fatigue, and she told me that she used to spend the weekends out with friends and visiting family. Now, she wants nothing more than to stay home, read a book, and watch a movie. Now, I know some of my introverted friends are different than myself and they're rejuvenated by having time alone. And I totally get that. That's super important. But the key here is that there was a marked change. If you're not sure if you've changed, ask a friend or your spouse. I am sure they will be happy to tell you. If you're curious about your levels of compassion fatigue, I encourage you to click the link below and complete the professional quality of life assessment. After answering these 30 questions, you will be emailed your personalized results. Thanks for connecting. Take care.